Before we get started, we just want to thank Old Republic Surety for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety, as well as NASBP virtual seminars for the 5th year in a row. For more information on Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com. Now on to our show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Get Surety. I've got with me today my co-host, Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Kat. I'm glad to be back.
It's always good to have you on with me. I'm excited about our topic today. We're going to be learning more about the American Subcontractors Association.
Yeah, very important relationship for us, and we have a special guest with us
today. We are delighted to have Richard Bright, CEO of the American Subcontractors Association, or ASA.
Thank you very much for the invite, for me being at the conference, and for this opportunity on the podcast. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, before we dive into talking about your association, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Richard?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I've been the CEO of ASA for probably the last 7 years now. Formerly, I was with the ASA for a lot longer in respect to a consulting role that I had there working with all the chapters.
Okay.
And I've been in and around the construction industry with various associations for the last 20 plus years. So know all about our members, the subcontractors and the suppliers, and the value of the work that they do. And it's just been a great organization and great leaders. It's just been a pleasure to serve the organization.
That's terrific.
Well, I know ASA is it is a fairly expansive organization. It's national and local as well. Can you explain a little bit how ASA is set up?
Sure, yeah. So we are nationally what we call a 501c3 trade association. So we have around 34 chapters around the country of varying degrees of sizes. And each chapter is connected to the national organization. So if you join at a local chapter level, you also have to be a member of national and vice versa, unless you're in an area where we don't have a chapter. So again, 34 chapters. All of our members are either specialty contractors or suppliers. We also have surety bond producers as members, insurance folks, construction CPAs, construction attorneys. We actually have a very, very vibrant national attorneys council that meets a few times a year. We don't allow general contractors or owners, architects or engineers to join. Although we collaborate with them obviously at the national level in a lot of activities, and at the local level I would say every chapter has what they call industry partners, where they network with general contractors, they help support education, etc. But that's the makeup of the organization.
Right. And so approximately how many individual companies do you have as members?
We've got around 2,500 company members. We've got about 6,000 to 7,000 member contacts within those companies. And then through our foundation, we have a magazine that goes out to around 14,000 subscribers. So, but the reach is around 2,500 member companies.
Right. So I imagine you offer a whole host of services and support to the subcontractor supplier community. Would you like to single out some of those types of services?
Sure, and there's very much a difference between the national and the local chapter. So, the local chapter being local has the ability to have way more networking opportunities than necessarily we offer at the national level. So they're doing a lot of networking, a lot of fundraising. They have traditionally most chapters will do monthly meetings where they'll bring in speakers. So it's a lot about education and networking at the local level, unless of course at any one time they're looking at anything legislatively in their state. At the national level, our main networking event is our annual convention. So that's our main networking event outside of any regional leadership training that we provide. So the majority of what we do is centered around advocacy. We are the voice of the specialty contractor and the supplier. Our mission is better construction through fair construction, and that sort of ties into why we don't have general contractors and others as members. Again, just legislatively, we want to be focused on who our member audience is and their issues. The second piece of what we do, especially in conjunction with our Attorneys Council, is contract language, contract documentation, contract education about what you're signing, what you shouldn't be signing, how to negotiate it out, a whole host of education around that. So the core of what we do is very much there to support the sub, but it's different in the sense of all the other offerings that the chapter can provide too.
That's great.
So, I mean, do you sometimes find yourself as a lone voice, or do you team with other organizations on particular issues?
Good question. I laugh because, yeah, sure, we're the lone voice. No, we at the local level, some of the organizations will have coalitions. Some of them will have joint events with folks like CFMA and things like that. Maybe AGC on occasions, they do joint events. So we do the same thing at the national level, in particular the procurement coalition that you guys are involved with too.
Right.
So we're all about partnering and aligning if it makes sense, and obviously our relationship with NASBP is a shining light for that in respect to how you can work with other organizations collectively to get things done that you probably couldn't do on your own. Yeah. So absolutely, we do that a lot.
So we're very interested in some of the issues your members are facing currently, and I'd love for you to just kind of run down some of those and what some of the initiatives you're undertaking to address that.
Yeah.
Sure. The sad thing is, or the good thing is, we were founded in 1966, and we were founded around prompt pay and payment issues. And the sad thing is that we're still dealing with prompt pay and payment issues. So that's front and center in what we do and the challenges. And again, aligned with you folks on the surety side, it's all about getting our members paid and in a timely way. Obviously, we've struggled, or our members struggle, with price escalation and the supply chain issues that everybody's had. Yep. So we worked with the Attorneys Council to come up with some contract clauses about escalation to get inserted into contracts, how to negotiate those in. We also had force majeure language that the attorneys worked on. But the challenge with that is that's for future contracts. So the rest of it, we've talked to our counterparts at other organizations about how they're handling the costs, and it's just a negotiation. So some of what we've been doing is trying to teach around negotiation and how to, at least move the needle in some way. So those are the big issues. I think contract language is always a challenge. It's we were one of the co-founders, and now it's consensus docs are collectively consensus of the industry, best practice. But we don't see a lot of them. We see a lot of mishmash of AIA and the general contractor's own contract language. Right. So we're constantly educating and providing information about what these clauses mean, good, bad, or indifferent, what you should replace them with, etc. So we're still seeing a lot of one-sided contracts. And then payment. It's continued to be slow. Change orders, constantly fighting to get paid on change orders. The delays of getting that. And in some cases, we've got members that have got hundreds of thousands of dollars out on retainage for 3 years, 5 years. So even though we've been very successful around the states, I think most states now around on public work, 5% retention. In New Mexico, it's actually 0. We actually we achieved that quite a few years ago now. But it's 5% out of a large project, and if they're holding on to it for years, it's tying up cash. And then lastly, workforce, the shortage of qualified labor and the increased costs of keeping your labor and your workforce in place. So those are the challenges that we're still dealing with.
So that was interesting what you were just talking about. So you've had a long term campaign on addressing retainage at the state level, correct?
Yes.
Either judicious use or reduction. And you've had a number of victories. You continue to see pay if paid language. Is that on your agenda to address at the state level where you can?
Yeah. Absolutely, and we've done it. I know we just had some successes in Virginia and some other. It's always on the radar. It depends on how, at the state level, how active the chapter is in respect to their government advocacy and timing and various other things. But it's always on the radar to be able to move the needle on that one.
So NASBP is an organization that relies on its grassroots, its member volunteerism. I imagine it's a similar situation with your organization as well?
All grassroots. I mean, we would love to be able to send out loads of letters and get loads of members coming back in, but it's all grassroots, peer-to-peer recruiting, peer-to-peer learning. And you know here at your conference as well, the discussions that you have in the hallways and in the restaurants is sometimes more revealing than some of the content. But so very much grassroots. When we start a new chapter, we just launched Austin, Texas this year, and that was an easy one for us because we've got a real stronghold in Texas. We've got 3 other chapters, and San Antonio is right on its doorstep. So we've got a lot of member companies that do business in Austin, so they gave us that platform to work from. But in Washington State, we just relaunched Washington State. And again, that's all grassroots. It's about local subs coming together with a passion that wants to get this thing going. They're willing to volunteer the time. And then we come in and help them with the systems and the processes. But to grow, it's all about their relationships and the grassroots. So everything we do is grassroots.
So you mentioned about a couple chapters that are new or whatever. Do you have plans for additional chapters in the future?
Yeah, so I'm happy to say for the last few years we've been in net growth. So it's not been huge, but 1%, 2%, 3% here, 4% there. It's moving in the right direction. So the strategic plan that we have wants us to get to 5,000 members at a minimum. So the only way to do that is through organic growth in the existing chapter, which again can be, it's not you're not going to make huge strides there, but you're going to make some growth.
Right.
And then the other is through alliances and awareness. So people will come to us to say, hey, I want to start a chapter. And I got a gentleman that I'm talking to next week about possibly doing one in Iowa. We've talked about North Florida. So it's definitely on our radar to open more. But we won't go in there until we know we've got a local group of subs that are really wanting to drive this thing.
That's great.
So you had mentioned earlier about amicus briefs, but I think you have a very active, group that helps you with that. And maybe a lot of folks in the industry might not know about that. Could you tell us a little bit more about your attorney group?
Yeah. We call it the Attorneys Council. So at every chapter, they've at least got one construction attorney that's engaged. Sometimes they're the general counsel of on the board level too, sometimes not. But in most cases, we've probably got 2 to 3, if not more, construction attorneys that work at the chapter level or are members of the chapter. And then they come together collectively, if they so wish, to participate in what we call the Attorneys Council. And they meet in person 2 times a year, once at our annual convention and then another one virtually. And I tell you, we can't live without this group. The subgroups within them, one is our contract documents task force. So they'll review consensus docs when they come in. They'll review other contract clauses. So we use the Attorneys Council in so many ways that they provide us with so much education. They update a lot of our documents that we have in our info hub, which is the members only area for resources. So fantastic. We also have the subgroup, which is the Subcontractors Legal Defense Fund. And I don't believe anybody else in the country does this, but basically with the amicus brief, as you mentioned, folks will submit cases that come in around the country, and they can come in from non-members, quite frankly. It gets reviewed by the Attorneys Council on a volunteer basis. They look at it and say, is this a real problem? Is this something that is a case? Is it going to be essential that we participate in this? And also, what's the chances of us winning it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then they'll do an RFP out to the appropriate attorneys that work in that state wherever the case is being handled. And they give significant discounts to help write the amicus briefs and work the case for us. So, they're also involved with, they're developing right now a natural disasters guide and manual that we should be launching later this year.
Wow.
So that's basically how to deal with FEMA and other things, because obviously we have a fairly new chapter in Southwest Florida based out of Fort Myers, and obviously they were devastated in the recent hurricane.
Right, yeah.
So.
Well, obviously that's a tremendous resource that you have available. Maybe not everybody in our community may know all the good work that happens behind the scenes where ASA has supported efforts to essentially educate legislators when there's an effort to increase a bond threshold, and why it's so important that not just members of the surety community in our grassroots efforts try to educate why that is not in the best interest for that jurisdiction. But sometimes we look a little too self-interested when it's only us.
Right.
And we've worked very well with ASA, and we thank you for that. But I know we've had, even recently, some challenges in a few states like Illinois and Connecticut who wanted to have significant threshold increases. And you guys are a great resource.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. I think, as I said earlier, it's been a great relationship with you guys. So where you're going in, we're going in with the same concerns, but we're going in as the specialty contractors that are doing the work. Right?
Yep.
So it's important that we go together, and a lot of what we do with our lobbyist or Director of Legislative Affairs, Mike Oscar, we're educating. So a lot of folks, they don't understand, the industry, and they don't necessarily understand the impact of some of the decisions that they're looking to make with new legislation. So that's an important process constantly. And then obviously we've got our Hill visits coming here in June. So anything like that where we're aligned, if we can help at a state level or help at the Fed level, we're absolutely happy to do it. It's been a great relationship.
Yeah, you had mentioned that obviously you're rank and file or subcontractors and suppliers, but bond producers have an avenue for membership and involvement. Can you tell us a little bit more about how they could do that?
Yeah. So anybody can join at the chapter level, or if they're in an area where there isn't a chapter, they can certainly go online and join as what we call a member at large.
Okay.
We have a large group of surety producer as members. They're very active at the chapters, sometimes in committees and leadership positions. So we would encourage them to participate. I think we're a great organization. I think you're a great organization, and they're a valued piece of this. And I think some are doing education at the local level too. So there's plenty of opportunity for them to join, and it's as simple as going online. And then some of the chapters may have a process to review and approve, but in many cases they don't. You just go online and join.
Well, and you said that they even have opportunities for leadership positions in the chapters.
Yeah, we love to develop committees and the committee structure, both nationally and at the local level. Some chapters may have they may have restrictions within their bylaws, not to necessarily participate on the board, but when you get into officer positions to the president, they may have restrictions that needs to be a sub or a supplier. But in most cases, when they join, we want them to be participatory and engaged. So it's all about the engagement.
Yeah. So going forward, what is the most important thing for ASA National in the next 12, 18 months?
I think definitely to continue the work that we have been doing from an advocacy perspective, but we've relaunched our foundation, which we call FASA.
Okay.
So the most important thing that I'm working on outside of obviously making sure that the member benefits that we have are reaching the right people is to reach even more people. So with our magazine, with everything we do, we have got incredible resources with contract language, negotiation tips. So if only a small amount of our community is using them, then are we really affecting change? So our goal is to flip that switch and to boost our membership, or at least grow the tent, as we call it, but to reach, we'd like to reach 30,000 subs in the next couple of years here with what we're doing from a messaging standpoint. That to me is the most important.
Well, and if anyone's listening and they want to find out more about ASA and get more involved, where should they go?
Yeah, great, thank you. ASAonline.com. ASAonline.com is the best way to go, and you can follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. So it would be great. We'd love to have them.
Well, it's been great having you on today. I loved learning more about the American Subcontractors Association, and I hope we can have you back on the podcast again sometime.
I would love to do it. It's been a pleasure. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity and the relationship. It's been fantastic.
And it will continue to grow, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank
you. You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just want to say thank you again to Old Republic Surety for their generous support in sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. For more information on Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com.